individual deserves and possesses a dignity that should not be infringed, particularly by intimate partners and family members.
That is very good. That means that when somebody feels or women feel indignified, they will not be very strong enough to exploit their potential.
That's right.
Very
That's right.
good.
Yeah.
My second question. The dignity of women is human dignity and a human right issue. So what is the role of religion and particularly religious leaders in addressing gender-based violence as a human right issue?
So we talk about human dignity and building human dignity through different lenses.
Yes.
So we use human rights. There are religious principles, like the principle that we are all children of God.
Yes.
And so I think both are directed at the same goal of trying to recognize again this reality that every human being possesses an inherent dignity. And so religious leaders, whether through the human rights lens, whether they're speaking the language of human rights or they're speaking the doctrine of their religion, have a role to respect and to teach the value of each individual as a human being and as a child of God.
That is very good. So my question number 3, gender-based violence is a direct health issue on matters mental health and physical health. Do you think that religion is a key context that should be interrogated on matters gender-based violence and women's health?
I think religion definitely has a role to play. Statistics indicate that about 80% of people in the world affiliate with a religion.
Yes.
And even of those who don't, many express religious or spiritual beliefs.
Yes.
And so any human problem really ought to take account of religion and the religious commitments of people. And so I think it's important as we think about gender-based violence to think about the role of religion. And certainly religion has a role to eliminate gender-based violence by speaking out about these things, by explaining to adherents of a religion that this is wrong in the sight of God.
Yes.
This is an abomination. This is very serious. And so religion, I think, can play a key role in eliminating gender-based violence.
That is a very good response, considering that in Africa, women are actually very religious and they are the ones who are the custodians of religious beliefs. My fourth question. Gender-based violence is a justice issue that requires a legal interventional approach. What is your message to religious leaders who encourage women in abusive relationships to persevere and pray for their abusive partners and behave well so that through their good behavior that their abusive partners can change?
Yeah, I think there's degrees here. Gender-based violence cannot be tolerated. I think that's a fundamental line that we don't cross.
Yes.
But in any marriage, there's going to be challenges.
Yes.
And so religious leaders, I think, are there to encourage spouses to treat each other with respect,
Yes.
to try and build a relationship in which there is equality and in which each spouse is valued and is an equal partner in the marriage relationship. But marriages can, or other relationships can get to a point or have a dynamic where it's absolutely unhealthy and the dignity of the person is being denigrated, and there's a need to leave that relationship. And religious leaders can help to make that clear, and also to give individuals courage, because it's not easy to leave a relationship, and sometimes, I don't understand the full psychology of it, right, but people will develop dependencies in those sorts of relationships and not be willing to leave, and so there can be strength provided to leave a relationship that is harmful.
That's very important because it is better to tell a woman to live and be alive to tell her own story.
Absolutely.
Instead of waiting to die so that others can tell her story.
Absolutely.
My last question. You worked with USAID for a period of over 2 years. What are some of the approaches that USAID has used to address gender-based violence? How effective has it been? What can be done differently?
So one of the things I worked on was preventing sexual exploitation and abuse. So it wasn't just gender-based violence, but for example, sexual exploitation in the provision of humanitarian assistance or development aid, where humanitarian workers or development workers were taking advantage of particularly women and girls to obtain sexual favors, for example, in response to get development or humanitarian assistance benefits. And that is, again, an abomination. It's preying on the very most vulnerable and taking something that is supposed to respect their dignity and bless them and using it against them. And so one of the things we work to do is to establish an awareness and reporting opportunities for people who experience that sort of exploitation, so that there could be awareness and a serious response to those sorts of things, and making sure that that was in the programming of USAID, and that its contractors and grantees, those who were carrying out development or humanitarian assistance, knew that that was their responsibility.
That is very good. I'm particularly humbled to have you, and especially on the issue of women's sexuality. I've written my PhD from the Song of Songs, and I believe that the sexuality of a woman is human dignity.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much,
Thank
David.
you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.